Okay, we have one more left. The Oracle Tree. So this is the one I heard about before I started my stream today because we've been on an interesting journey of giving other people your power. It kind of started with Power Infusion last expansion. Power Infusion went on a super rocky road and in some patches defined class strength. Like the best classes for multiple years of this game recently have been defined by whether you are a good Power Infusion target or not. And in turn, in a negative way, caused classes to be nerfed that would not have been nerfed otherwise if it was not for Power Infusion. And they got nerfed so much that they were no longer the best PI targets, so your class felt like it was losing a cooldown and got nerfed at the same time, and you felt like shit. Which was maybe, if all the things Power Infusion did, that was probably the worst one, that they couldn't figure out a way around that. And then Power Infusion stopped getting complained about for a bit. And there's two reasons for that. Number one, Augmentation came out, which was basically just PI, but an entire class. And then you didn't really hear a lot of people complain about PI because Augmentation was out there. And the other reason that you didn't hear people complaining about PI was because this patch, really for the first time ever, they kind of figured it out. PI right now, for the first time ever, since it has been able to be given to other people, did not define the DPS meta. Every class that was great with PI at the top was great without it. That has not been true in the past. PI was also nerfed, but where it was basically increasing classes damage by just 5-10% before, it's just nowhere near that now. So with the PI nerf and just to whatever other changes they made, or maybe whatever happened to be meta, it didn't make or break any class, and it did not define the meta in rating or in Mythic Plus. Just absolutely not. In 10.1.5, yes. In 10.2, after they nerfed it, no, it just straight up didn't. You are not bringing a PI for a specific class. Like, it's when you have PI, it's nice, but it is not necessary. They kind of hit the mark with PI recently. But it looks like, from what I've heard, and I haven't read it yet, and I'm going to try to clear my mind before reading this, because it's important for me to approach all of these from like a completely unbiased point beforehand. But from what it sounds like, they took PI, which they just kind of finally figured out and had it not be annoying. And now it sounds like it might be a bit of a problem again. Let's figure it out. Okay, Premonition. Oh, wow. It just straight up replaces PI on a 1-minute CD. Okay, here's a good thing just to start. This is for Disc and Holy Priest. Thank fucking God this is not an option for Shadow. I still feel like a lot of the issues with PI for me have been like when they had to make decisions with Power Infusion last expansion and just tuning issues. Like Shadow Priests having super overpowered Power Infusion like it used to be made it impossible to tune them. Like they could never be good on their own because Power Infusion exists. It caused so many problems. For healers, that's not necessarily the case. Like in general, if there's a place in the game for buffing other members of your group, I'm generally okay with that happening from the healer role. Not a huge fan of Augmentation, although I certainly don't hate it as much as a lot of the community does, but I'm not a big fan of how they've approached Augmentation. If just for whatever reason, this game for the past 5 years had every healer as part of their kit, just had something to like buff an ally in some way. You know, like Tricks of the Trade that rogues used to have back in the day. No one really cared about Tricks of the Trade. That was just kind of a good thing, especially because it was a really short CD and you could move it around a lot and have it be optimal. Well, you complain if you didn't get it, I guess. Kind of the same thing, but not nearly as much of an issue. If Resto Shamans had, like, your Riptide targets were a little stronger, or, like, you know, stuff to where it's just, like, passive benefits. I'm not mad at Blessing of Summer or Blessing of Autumn. In fact, I actually think they're really cool. Like, Blessing of Autumn existing is the only reason you didn't have to play double Blood Decay on Fyrakk this raid. A Autumn from your Holy Paladin was the only way you could have Mass Grip for both sets. I thought stuff like that is fucking cool, because it's like cool problem solving. It's not super egregious, and like it can help fit things where they need to go, and that's good. So this being for Disc and Holy, I think is fine. But also we have this weird problem where somehow this expansion damage for healers was actually like pretty balanced at one point, and then they moved away from that. Like Priests just bring so much more value than other healers. And I'm concerned of the DPS value of Priests going into a new expansion compared to other healers if they're getting Giga PI. You know what I mean? Like PI has pretty much been the reason that they've been better than other healers, besides the fact that Disc is like kind of supposed to be like a little hybrid thing. And they're going to feel forced into this, right? Let's say for whatever reason, this is all based on supporting your allies. I haven't even read it yet. but I've heard that. What if Holy has like a really cool like Holy option and Disc has a really fun and interactive like Shadow option or whatever, but they can't play that the entire expansion because of the value of this, even if it's not fun? I could totally see that. Do you guys think it's unlikely that a reality is there's 2 other really cool hero talents for Priest, but they can't ever play it because they have to play some fucking buffing garbage? Let's go ahead and read it, but that's pretty much my entire thoughts going into it. So let's see what we got. Replaces PI, 1 minute CD. Divine the future and gain access to a spell that gives you the advantage against your fate. So you press the 1 minute CD and then you get a button to press. It cycles through each per second. It's like a slot machine. It's like Twisted Fate. It cycles through and you click to confirm. I don't play League. So you can press it a few times to get the one you want and then you put it on that person. That sounds dog shit to play, but I haven't played that before. Maybe it's totally fine. So, or you're saying you would press the button, confirm, and then use it? You press it for 12 seconds. It cycles every option every second, and you press the same button again to cast. So you don't actually... Okay. So you press the button, and then every single second it is rotating to a different one, and you have to press it on when it's the right one on the right person. You have to time it. Okay. That just sounds not awesome, but I don't know if I necessarily hate it. I mean, I'm not going to knock it till let's get more. I'm thinking about the gameplay element of it right now, and it doesn't sound fun to play, but maybe it's good. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, so let's look at the 3 things. So it's going to bounce between 3. It increases your target's healing received by 25% for 10 seconds. That's a big fucking number. Increases your target's magic damage dealt by 10% for 10 seconds. And increase your target's physical damage dealt by 10% for 10 seconds. So you'll almost always use Insight. Even a lot of the really powerful melee are doing the majority of their damage as magic. Or even if they're like doing a ton of damage as like a melee DPS and most of it's physical, like 30% of it won't be affected by the glory buff. So, but a lot of it also isn't all magic. So it's actually just, this is weird. This is so funny because it's specifically magic and physical. There's a few specs in this game that are just going to be terrible for Premonition. Like, you want like a pure magic damage dealer. You wouldn't want almost all melee. And you wouldn't want like Demo Lock. Dude, even like Hunters, this is so weird. This is like pure casters or like warriors. It's really interesting how they decided to split up magic and physical damage. I don't know about that. I think that's the first thing that needs to change, actually. That's like, I think they should combine Insight and Glory. Like what? Just make it damage, dude. Like, or add a third one that's like a DR or something, and then maybe you could have it be like an external maybe or something. I don't know. Like that's trash. Like Insight and I'm thinking about the reason I'm thinking about like Warcraft logs breakdowns in my head of like the way that classes damage works, and like this, you're going to only choose like maybe like 10 specs in the entire game would even make sense to use this on, and like why do that? That seems really bad. I like the target's healing received one though. That's kind of nice. I think the number would have to be a little bit bigger than that for it being a 1 minute cooldown. But like for certain debuffs in raid, you would never use it on tanks. But like that could actually be pretty nice if it had a bigger number. But the DPS one, I think you need to combine Insight and Glory and either create a third one or scrap the whole like wait until it's the right one thing. Okay, maybe there's like a good. We need to listen to the dev interview about this tree, I think. And I haven't even begun reading it. Okay. Increase the damage absorbed by Power Word Shield by 10% and healing done on Prayer of Mending. Cool. Power Word Shield applies 1 stack of Prayer of Mending to your target. Cool. Prayer of Mending across cast apply Power Word Shield to your target at 20% effectiveness. Is that on the person it's cast on, or does that include every bounce? Because if you gave a 20% Power Word Shield to every bounce, that'd be fucking sick. If it's just on the first person you put it on, though, that's ass. Definitely ass. Okay, here we go. Okay for disc, maybe? But the holy one sounds bad for sure. Unless there's some more stuff I don't get. Okay. Whenever your Power Word Shield is fully absorbed or your Prayer of Mending heals, you gain a stack of Grand Reveal. At 150 stacks, gain an additional charge of Premonition. Okay, I'm starting to see the synergy. That could be cool. Again, the more Premonition you are pressing, the worse this like waiting until it's the right one thing feels. Like a lot. So I'm definitely a huge advocate of changing the way that this works for sure. Okay. Premonition now has a low chance to grant you clairvoyance. Clairvoyance grants your target and 2 nearby allies all of the effects of Premonition at 100% effectiveness. That doesn't even... But this shit's trash, though. Like, it's just bad. This is literally worse than PI. Like, I wouldn't even want this. Okay, we'll keep reading. I don't know. And, dude, okay. I think one of the biggest issues with AUG, too, is, like, when it was PI, it was kind of easy to track. So, like, even when you looked at your details in Raid when PI was a thing for the last couple of years before augmentation, you, like, yeah, you acknowledge that, like, this Unholy DK that got PI is going to, like, do more than everyone. But, like, the details meter at least mostly made sense. Like, one of the... I think it's low-key for some people, but it's high-key for a lot of other people. One of the biggest issues with AUG is just that in-game your details meter just doesn't mean anything anymore in a raid. Like, who knows who's getting AUG'd when, half the time, the whole time. There's just random damage going out to where you actually just don't know how well or poorly you performed in a lot of cases because you just don't see it straight up. And then that's supposed to be better in logs, but Warcraft logs is also completely fucked. So, like, for, 3 months now at least, or really since I think it was like 10.7, details meters and logs has just been a total fucking clown show of what is happening in a raid. And the main reason why is just from all these random things. Like, PI, you could kind of just, like, filter out on your own and just figure out. But, like, AUG made it so hard to understand. And really, I think just saying it's only people who care about parsing is not really understanding. Like, no one in our guild gives a fuck about parsing. We don't even have public logs. Like, no one cares. It's just that, like, it's a pretty normal thing for you to play the game, not only care about your performance, but, like, you kill a boss and you're like, I wonder how I did compared to myself, like, last week. Or I wonder if I felt like I had a great pull. How come I'm not doing a lot of damage on the meters? Oh, because I just didn't randomly get buffed by that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just ruined a big part of the game, I think. And when I think about this buffing shit, before I look at the rest of this, I think about private auras. Private auras, as much as they are really widely disliked by pretty much anyone that interacts with them, they do actually have a point. And they have had some positives. I've explained them before, so I'm not going to go into them. They're almost never covered because of the next thing I'm about to talk about. Because the negatives are fucking 10 times worse. And they do not... The amount of negatives that exist from private auras do not make up for these small gains. The people who care about YOLOing some mechanics and not having a weak aura decide everything for you is vastly outweighed by anyone who has to deal with one of these workarounds where you press a macro to just get a normal weak aura to work. It's fucking awful. Or the list weak auras or whatever, right? It's the same thing with AUG, kind of. Like, or just the way that AUG has done that stuff to meters, at least. I think it would be a lot better if you could just see on meters or logs how things were actually working if that's not the case. Like, this whole, like, buffing other people randomly thing is, like, some people do like that. I think it has its place, especially within healers and when it's at a pretty low impact level, but it's like a cool synergistic use. Like, I gave the example of Blessing of Autumn earlier. I think that's fucking... how you use Blessing of Autumn on Fyrakk is fucking cool. Like, it's just cool. It's fun problem solving. I love it, right? The stuff like that. But those small gains are vastly outweighed by the bad that it brings for so many players. So they're, like, doubling and tripling down in this direction, and we haven't even finished this whole tree. But I just wonder how this is going to look a couple years from now, where it's like the players are at a direct head against the developers and they are, like, full set on, like, this support shit is awesome, and the player base is full set on they fucking hate it. Where most, like, oh, Blizzard isn't listening, oh, they're not, or I should say a part of the player base really hates it. And oftentimes I think a lot of the arguments are shot down for the wrong reason. Like, people care too much about meters is totally missing the point. Are there people out there who their entire, like, personality is parsing and ranking, and that's all they care about, and they're completely insufferable and no one likes them? Yes, those are those people. Saying that the argument that AUG and PI is problematic and throwing it off as it's just only those people is completely wrong. And I was wrong about that in the past too. It's so much more problematic than that for so many players that I think play this game for very normal reasons. So I hope that feedback is kind of given to them. But I'm just going to continue on with the thing now, having talked about it for a little bit. Okay. You get extra charges of Premonition. Other allies gain Premonition, which again, just imagine you're a fucking warrior and you get insight because you were just a random person next to... It's just bad. Let's just... You know what we're going to do? We're going to pretend that... Oh, you get all the buffs. Oh, all... I didn't read that. Grants your target and 2 nearby allies all the effects. Okay, that's way better. That's fucking way better. Still problematic, but just infinitely better than... I thought it was going to give it only the fucking... Dude, why are these even separated? Oh, actually... Wait, I don't even feel that bad about this. It says Premonition is a low chance. So this is going to be like, what? Like 1 in 5 Premonitions will grant someone like a very minor damage increase. It's like... It's not that bad. It's fine, I guess. Okay, anyways, continuing on. Increases the duration of Atonement by 1 second and the duration of Renew by 3. No idea about Renew. I imagine the Atonement increases always sound pretty good. 1 second's obviously not a ton, though. It's not a choice node anyway, so it's just kind of for free. Reduces the cooldown of Purify by 2 seconds. What is Purify? Is that their just natty dispel? Or is that like a, just like another button? So healer priests just have a shorter dispel than everyone else? I wonder... What is it? It just means that all healers will get this exact node? You think so? Do we have any other examples of that? Because this is an extremely unique scenario where this is a hero talent that is specifically for 2 different healer specs, which no other class in the game can do. This is a healer-healer thing. I could see it being unique. Disc Priests are also the only class in the entire game without a kick, which means that it would kind of make sense for them to be the only class in the game with a 6-second dispel, if they want it, right? I don't know. I could see it not being given to everyone else. Either way, it's cursed if only 2 have a shorter dispel CD. I don't know if that's true. At all. I think I'm just trying to think of like raid fights, right? Okay. Let's remove Fyrak, right? Like Fyrak is a completely unique dispel fight, and hopefully they learn from that mistake. But even on Fyrak, I don't think it would be that huge. I'm just thinking about it right now. I can't think of a lot of scenarios where one healer having a 2-second shorter dispel would even matter which healer you brought. It would make them like slightly better at afflicted weeks or more consistent. It'd be nice for like very specific dungeon mechanics, like maybe like Thundercock and Ruby Life Pools or something, but you don't usually dispel the second one. A Totem boss and Throne of the Tides, it lets you get every flame shock. Yeah, but that's like one boss, you know what I'm saying? Like bursting. No. I'm going through my head right now. I don't think like if the game just gave healer priest a shorter purify, like for example, if this choice node was shorter dispel or you get a kick, I'm pretty sure they would take a kick almost all the time, and all the other healers have that. So I think this is perfectly fine. Anyways, what's the cooldown, or what's the node that's on it with? Let's see. When an ally walks through your angelic feather, you are also granted 100% of its effect. See, now I don't like this choice node. I mean, divine feathers is like super whatever. I feel like, okay, I'm fine with prompt deliverance. I wish divine feathers was more interesting, because there's almost all scenarios where you wouldn't care to have a 6-second dispel. So you should have something cool to go alongside of that. Like if you're like, oh, you know what? I don't think I need 6-second dispel for this dungeon, for this boss, for this thing. Oh, I can get divine feathers? Who fucking cares? I'm just going to keep the 6-second dispel. You know what I mean? Like it's not an interesting enough choice node. Yeah, that's some dog shit, divine feathers for sure. Okay, perfect vision reduces the cooldown of Premonition by 10 seconds. Premonition can now trigger the brilliance and urgency effects. Oh, so now there's fucking 5. Restores 5% of your target's mana, which is, you would never use that on its own. And increases your target's haste by 12% for 10 seconds, which is pretty piss, but damage. Dude, this shit, Premonition needs to give you all of these. You having to like rotate through and choose just sounds like the worst gameplay of all time. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Premonition causes your next power word, Radiance, Heal, or Prayer of Mending to be instant cast and costs 15% less mana. Super whatever. Reduces the cooldown of powered life by 3 seconds and allows it to be usable on targets by 50% health or above. I don't know how powered life works. Both of those seem super whatever. Pain suppression reduces damage taken by an additional 10%, and GS lasts an additional 2 seconds. Wait, pain suppression's a goddamn wall now? Can you still get 2 charges of PS as a disc priest? Dude, that's fucking sick. Dude, pain suppression is so fucking good. I wish Guardian Spirit got something else other than duration, though. Maybe give Guardian Spirit like a little DR on it. I mean, what's the point of a DR when you have a cheat? Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Anyways, the last one I haven't read. Increases the duration of your premonition effects by 2 seconds. Super boring. Premonition's effect is increased by 30% if the divine spell is different than the previous premonition. I don't like any of this. I don't know. Like, dude, I would rather just have PI. Like, this is just infinitely... Like if you're a priest, this is just worse than PI. I would rather have PI and give up all of this. This just seems like an infinitely more annoying PI. They have to press more than twice as much. The gameplay of it sounds absolutely terrible. Bro, I would rework this whole thing. This is ass. This is straight ass. These choice nodes are ass. This is ass. Yeah, I think this is worse than Lightsmith. Like, I'm not even, like, dooming about the, like... I am probably more open to, like, support-style stuff than most people. This is just bad. Like, this whole thing is just bad. Bad to play, and, like, it does have that external buffing shit, but for what? It's not even cool. It's not even, like, a cool version of it. It's just ass. You have to hate this as a priest. So there's going to be a lot of people who hate this by default just because weird buffing bullshit, right? But, like... I think Disc and Holy Priest players are probably a bit more open to that because I think healers are just kind of more open to that type of gameplay anyway. Right? Like, I feel like in a lot of cases, is everyone's been, like, raging against this fucking buffing meta of, like, buffing other people for the past couple years, and, like, Holy Priest and Disc Priest have just seen all these people, like, fighting and throwing things at each other, and they're just, like, in the corner with their hands up, just, like, trying not to get hit by shit. Like, they just don't really care. Right? So I imagine a lot of Holy and Disc Priests don't really care about that aspect of it, but I find it really hard to believe that if you're a Holy or Disc Priest player, that you read this tree and was like, oh, that sounds awesome and fun or good. I think it sounds bad, like numerically bad, and it also sounds like shit to play. I don't know how you could read this and be happy with it. There's just no way that this is the best version of what you're... I don't know. Like, it can't be good.